These are 36 details you missed in X-Men First Class. Number 1. Young Charles wakes up in his bed after hearing an odd noise coming from a different room. If you look at his nightstand next to his bed, you'll see that he has a picture of Albert Einstein sitting there, but this particular picture wasn't taken until 1947, and this section of the film is set in 1944. Number 2. Young Raven meets young Charles for the first time when she's stealing food from his kitchen. This is the first and only time that we see Mystique as a child, and while the usual practical effects weren't feasible for the young actress, this slip-on bodysuit and facial appliances still took a total of 1.5 hours. Number 3. We can see that Eric's grown up to be a very angry adult mutant thanks to his time in concentration camps. The number tattooed on his arm is 214782, but there's no legitimate way that this could have been an Auschwitz number, so the number was later retconned to be 24005. Number 4. Eric's seen in his hotel room as he's contemplating his targets on his board. He's seen sending the memorable coin into the head of the picture of Shaw on the board, and this actually foreshadows what he actually does to him later on, but the actual deed is much slower. Number 5. Moira and her partner are posted outside a casino in Vegas, and they're watching members of the Hellfire Club gather.
They can't all be communists. This Hellfire Club's gotta be something else.
In fact, the Hellfire Club is the gathering of some of the most influential, rich, and diabolical people in the X-Men universe, which also first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men number 129. Number 6. Emma Frost takes Colonel Hendry to see Sebastian Shaw in the secret area of the casino. Sebastian's seen starting a record to listen to, and this is actually the exact same record and song that he started playing when he was testing Eric back in 1944. Number 7. Shaw's seen entertaining Colonel Hendry in the back room, and one of his mutants shows off a bit. This mutant's actually known as Riptide, but his name's never mentioned in this film, or the sequel to this film either. Number 8. Meanwhile, Charles has finished his thesis, and he and Raven are about to go and celebrate.
So, how does it feel to be a professor?
Oh, don't call me that. You don't get to be called a professor until you actually have a teaching position.
This is a reference to Charles's X-Men name, Professor X, which he takes after opening his school for mutants. Number 9. Eric travels to Venezuela to deal with 2 former German officers who are going to lead him to Shaw. These men are played by Ludger Pister and Wilfred Hochuldinger, and this isn't the first time that they've played the same kind of role. They also played similar soldiers in Inglourious Bastards, where Michael Fassbender also played opposite of them as an Allied soldier. Number 10. Eric confronts 2 former soldiers while in Argentina, and one of them pulls a weapon on him. The blade has the saying "Blood and Honor" etched in it, and this saying was etched into the blades of knives used by the Hitler Youth in World War II. Number 11. Charles ends up going to the CIA headquarters to give a presentation on mutation. On the slide behind them, the genes and DNA are seen forming the X that he will later use as the symbol for the X-Men at his school. Number 12. During the presentation at CIA headquarters, one of the men present is Agent Stryker. Agent Stryker here is actually the father of William Stryker, the man who's responsible for the testing done on Wolverine, and he's the grandfather of Jason Stryker, the mutant used as the Great Illusionist. Number 13. Charles and the other mutants are taken to headquarters to meet their new team and see the new equipment. It's here that we meet Hank, aka Beast, and he's the only one of the mutants introduced in this film that was actually part of Charles's first class in the comics. Number 14. After Hank shows off his mutant abilities to the others, he takes a moment to take in Raven's beauty. Interestingly enough, Nicholas Hoult and Jennifer Lawrence actually started dating for a while after meeting on the set for this film. Number 15. While contemplating how to handle the new mutants they've encountered, Emma tells Shaw that she needs to keep Xavier out of his head. Shaw shows off a new helmet that's designed to keep telepaths out of the wearer's head, and this is actually the helmet that Eric will end up using the rest of his life to keep Charles out of his head. Number 16. Hank takes Charles and the others to check out the Cerebro he designed, and he explains how it will work for Charles. After going over the science of the machine, Hank says,
"Are you sure we can't shave your head? Don't touch my hair."
And this is a reference to the look of Charles Xavier later on in the series. Number 17. Charles prepares to use Cerebro for the first time, and he gets a rush when he starts searching for mutants. Some of the mutants that he comes across look quite familiar. There's a young version of Storm visible with Scott Summers. Number 18. Eric and Charles head to a suggestive club to recruit Angel to their cause. Interestingly enough, Michael Fassbender, who plays Eric, actually started dating Zoe Kravitz, who plays Angel, while working on this film. Number 19. Charles and Eric are taken to a heavily guarded prison to meet with one of the mutants being held there. This is revealed to be Alex Summers, and while in the comics he's shown to be the younger brother to Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, here he's shown to be the older brother instead. Number 20. Eric and Charles go around the country to recruit the best mutants they can find, and they come across a familiar face.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
And while this film is set in 1962, the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine showed us that he was actually deployed in the Vietnam War at this time. Number 21. While on the hidden sub, Emma goes to check on Shaw and he's seen observing his own artifact. He says,
"We are the children of the atom."
And this refers to a previous group of X-Men seen in comics which comprised of Cherub, Cyclops Lass, Gimmick, and the brothers Marvel Guy and Daycrawler. Number 22. Shaw and his remaining team members decide to storm the CIA headquarters where the first-class mutants are staying. Even though Azazel and Mystique barely interact with one another in this film, in the comics the two of them have a son together, Nightcrawler. Number 23. Charles and Eric start training at Westchester and Eric wants a direct approach. Eric tells Charles,
"Oh, come on. You know I can deflect it."
And this foreshadows the actions of Eric at the end of this film when he deflects the bullet right into Charles' spine. Number 24. Banshee trains with Moira and Charles at Westchester and he gets to interact with Moira a little bit. Caleb Landry Jones plays Banshee and he knew that his character had a love connection with Moira, so whenever he could, he would make sure to look at Moira differently. Number 25. Later, Hank and Charles try out some new equipment with Banshee which will help him be able to fly. The colors used for the glider is yellow and black, which is reminiscent of the original X-Men colors, as well as the colors seen in the New Mutants series. Number 26. Charles spends some time helping Hank train his own abilities. The two of them race each other around the grounds and Hank is having trouble accepting his abilities. Charles says,
If you want to beat me this time, you have to set the beast free.
And this is a reference to the fact that Hank's mutant name will later become Beast. Number 27. The entire first class of mutants goes through their own training sessions and the style of the movie changes a bit. The montage goes through cuts with different sized tiles throughout it, and this was done to mirror the look and style of a comic book with its separation. Number 28. The mutants and Moira gather around the TV to listen to the president's address to the nation. This whole speech is taken straight from historical archives, but one of the lines was changed for this film. The line that was changed for the film says,
"To regard any nuclear missile crossing the embargo line that surrounds Cuba as an attack by the Soviet Union on the..."
Number 29. Before the attack that happens in Cuba, Eric and Charles sit to discuss what they plan to do with Shaw. The two of them are seen playing a game of chess, and this continues the tradition set forth in the first X-Men films, where they're always seen playing a game of chess when meeting up in public. Number 30. Just as the cargo ship is ready to cross the embargo line, the X-Men show up to save the day. This is actually the first rendition of the Blackbird ship that the X-Men would be known for flying to and from missions once established at Westchester. Number 31. Banshee and Charles come up with a plan to locate Shaw, and they open bomb doors in the Blackbird. Banshee says,
"Whoa! You back right up."
When Eric comes over to help him, this is because the last time Banshee thought about doing this stunt, Eric pushed him off the satellite. Number 32. Eric sends the submarine flying onto the beach as it rolls over and over. Even though the entire sub's rolled and been broken and rushed for quite some distance, somehow the book still managed to be on the shelves and the pillow is still sitting on the couch as if it hadn't moved. Number 33. Eventually, Eric comes face to face with Shaw in the submarine. Shaw asks him,
Why fight for a doomed race who will hunt us down as soon as they realize their reign is coming to an end?
While Eric is fighting on the good side for the time being, this is a philosophy that he uses to recruit mutants when he embraces the part of Magneto. Number 34. Beast is almost finished off by Azazel on the beach, but Mystique disguises herself as Shaw to get him to stop. You can tell that this is Mystique disguised, as she's impersonating the version of Shaw that she saw earlier when he attacked the compound with his red undershirt showing. She hasn't seen him in his buttoned-up black getup that he's wearing now. Number 35. Magneto manages to take the helmet off Shaw, and Charles is able to freeze him through his mind. Even though Charles is the main protagonist and Shaw is the main antagonist, this is the closest the two characters come to interacting with each other directly. Number 36. Eric and his Brotherhood spring Emma Frost from her prison at the CIA headquarters. Even though we've gotten to know the more human side of Eric in this film, we finally get to see him don a costume that's closer to his comic book version, Magneto.